I started out with an insurance company as a file clerk and policy typist. I was in that position for about 5 years when I was given the opportunity to apply for a position in the claim department as a claims assistant in workers' comp. And actually back then, the claims assistants had to actually pay all indemnity payments. We approved all treatment, paid all bills, and we actually did all state filings. At that time, I had a great supervisor who was very patient and taught me all about workers' comp. And then I was given the opportunity to be promoted to an examiner under him. When I started, when I came over to Sedgwick, I got told by a prior colleague at the other insurance company I worked for, Debbie, they have to meet Sedgwick's expectations, not yours. And I got tickled because I said, what are you trying to tell me, that my expectations are greater than Sedgwick's? And they said, yes. All the examiners I work with, two especially that's been with me since I started at Sedgwick, and they were actually at Sedgwick before I was. And they're do a great job. And the ones that I've hired in the interim do a great job. We have our challenges, but we take a day at a time and we continue to work through and do what we can. I'm one that believes that if it takes a little extra time or a lot of extra time or effort to do something, do it right the first time. I supervise a team of 6 examiners, and at any given time we have like 1,000 claims open, with the majority of them being indemnity claims. So, just trying to keep up with them. Because the supervisors at Sedgwick, they have to look at every denial. For the count I'm on, it's for every settlement authority request, it has to go through me. So it's a lot. And trying to keep up with that sometimes is a challenge every day. I think one of the things I've learned over the years is one of the failures that maybe weighed the heaviest on me would be not completing all my college courses to get my college education to further my career. But besides that, I have been given the opportunity to be promoted up in the company as a claims team lead or supervisor over a dedicated unit. I really appreciate Sedgwick giving me the opportunity to be in this position and to support my unit. Have been in this position since 2004. If I had to change one thing, I think it would be the UR appeals process, not the entire process, but maybe on the C35A form to include the supervisor's name over that claim for whatever carrier, TPA it may be, so both parties actually receive the form. The reason I say that is we recently had the incident where an appeal was filed and the examiner's name on the C35A was no longer at Sedgwick, and it got sent to his email and we didn't get notification of it. You've already missed that 1 week window of getting the medicals to the state. So we didn't get the opportunity to file the forms that we needed, and we did not get notification of the appeals until we actually got the invoice to pay.
I began my career as an insurance agent in another state. And when I got married, I moved to East Tennessee. And at that time, the city of Johnson City was advertising for a newly created position of risk manager. And one of the primary challenges of this new position would be to create a workers' comp program for the city. The city had opted into the workers' comp program effective January of 1982. Prior to that, they'd opted out. So I began work on November 30th and had 30 days to get that new workers' comp program up and running. We initially started with a fully insured program, and in the 1990s went to a retention type of program, and then we became self-insured in 2002. 40 years is a lot of time to reflect upon. I must say I was very honored 4 years ago to have been appointed to the Advisory Council for Workers' Compensation. And the opportunity that gave me to discover the workers' compensation program at a much higher level than I'd ever been able to experience. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to have done that and to learn through that experience. I'm also very pleased with the program that we have developed here in Johnson City for workers' compensation. We have a wonderful staff of caring people, and we help our employees as they go through the workers' comp claim process. And that starts with early reporting and counseling with regard to their benefits. We monitor their benefits to make sure that they're receiving them in a timely manner. We arrange for treatment and arrange for alternate duty assignments. We keep the lines of communication open between the employer and their supervisor, the physicians and adjusters, and all the other interested parties in the claim. And anytime an obstacle is presented to the employee in the process, we try to help them work through that. None of this would be possible without the awesome staff we have here in our department. Failures are hard to reflect upon. It's just painful. There have been a few occasions when an employee is not able to return to their pre-injury job. And of course, this is because either their injury was so severe or the physical demands of the job are so great that they aren't able to return to that position. And these always feel like a failure to me. The obstacles to their return to work are typically outside of our control, but our goal is always to return an employee either to their pre-injury job or to another position that will accommodate their needs. And when we fail to do that, it is very painful. We're very fortunate that rarely occurs, but it has occurred from time to time through my career. I had a case several years ago, quite a few years ago at this point, involving a solid waste employee whose leg was tragically crushed in an auto accident. And he had a very, very difficult recovery. This man was so sweet and so easy to help. I was leaving for vacation just a couple of weeks after it occurred, but he was still experiencing tremendous difficulty in his healing process. And I remember I took a 2-week vacation, probably the only one I've taken in my career, but I spent a great deal of time during those 2 weeks on the phone with him and his case manager, trying to work through challenges that he was facing on a daily basis. What made the case even more challenging was that his wife had just been diagnosed with cancer, and they were both struggling to deal with that diagnosis before this injury occurred. And it was, like I said, a very tragic injury. And so it made their lives all the more difficult. So we were trying to do everything we possibly could to make it easier for them, including some things in their household and arranging for meals and cleaning services and things such as that. Just anything that we could do to try to help this time be a little easier for them to transition through. That was one of my most rewarding cases. It was good to be able to help him in ways that we typically hadn't. We had to think outside the box from time to time. He needed treatment outside the city. He had to travel some 90 miles to do that, and he just wasn't accustomed to travel like that. So we arranged for transportation to get him to and from those visits with his physician. And it was very rewarding when he was able to eventually return to his previous work and went on to finish his career here with the city. But I truly enjoyed working with him. I would love to see greater involvement by the physicians, and especially those physicians who provide specialty care. It is so frustrating to have an employee who needs specialty care and not be able to obtain that for them because the physicians refuse to see the employee due to the fact that it is a workers' compensation claim. So I'd love to see more specialty involvement, in particularly of our physicians in the workers' compensation system. Well, I've reflected since being nominated for this. I've reflected on Sue Ann Head. And I had the pleasure of meeting Sue Ann many, many years ago. We met at a conference in Nashville, and she was doing a presentation. Following her presentation, She hung out in the lobby for a while to meet and greet with us and discuss any problems we were having with our programs. And what struck me most about Sue Ann was how genuinely kind and courteous she was, how patient she was to talk with us that day, and her sincere desire to create a system that was more equitable for both the employer and the employee. Her compassion for the employees was evident, and that struck a chord with me, and I've carried that forward, I hope, into the program that we have here in Johnson City. Because I think the employees deserve our care and our compassion. We want to minimize their suffering to the extent that we possibly can and to help them through the process so they can get back to their normal life, because that's really what their goal is. They want to go back to normal. And, their supervisors want them back to normal so that everyone can go on with their lives. But Sue Ann made a big impression on me. She was a very, very kind lady and very generous with her time.
What led me in a career of workman's compensation is I had been an oncology nurse for 15 years. I decided I no longer wanted to do the physical part of nursing. The wear and tear on my body is what made me change my career. My mother was my inspiration into becoming a workman's comp nurse. She had been a workman's comp nurse for over 30 years. She did independent nursing as well as she worked for the U.S. Department of Labor. I was able to see her help people that normally would have been lost in the system. For instance, a man that was delivering mail and he was hit from behind. He had multiple injuries. She was able to get him back to work, which was what he wanted more than anything, because at the post office, you can work a lot of overtime. So she was able to get him back to work into light duty to where he could provide for his family. Being able to help people is something that I've always wanted to do, and to see that you can still do that with workman's comp and make a difference in their life is truly amazing. My mother was able to teach me everything about workman's comp, and she was my biggest inspiration for this field. Besides my RN degree and multiple certifications, which I'm very proud of, the single most recent accomplishment that I could ever think of was to see the look on my patients' faces when I truly helped them, whether it's a hug, a smile, a nod. Just knowing that I made an impact in their lives is an accomplishment that I will forever be grateful for. I don't really consider this a failure per se, and I will never know the answers to this until I speak to the man above. I had been an oncology nurse for 7 years. I worked with some of the greatest minds in oncology, Sarah Cannon Research Institute as well. I did patient education. I taught people the signs and symptoms of cancer. I was able to mix the chemo, give the chemo, manage the side effects from everything from point A to Z in their disease. I wasn't able to detect when my husband had cancer. When we found out, he was stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He was in construction. A lot of his symptoms were consistent with somebody being in construction as well. We were still blessed though. I was able to take care of him at home. He lived for 11 months after he was diagnosed, which at that time was very unheard of. He didn't have to go to the hospital but twice during that whole time. The rest of the time I managed him at home, and for that I'm truly grateful. Truly blessed, because he was able to spend time with his kids and family more because I knew how to manage him at home. So he loved me for a lifetime. I knew that we would have been the couple that made it forever. Tennessee has some of the best laws and regulations, and they really gear toward the workers. The one thing that I would change is the doctors when they fill out their final paperwork and give their final impairment ratings. I would like for them to be able to do that faster, be held accountable when they take months to fill out a piece of paperwork. This truly impacts people's lives. Once they reach maximum medical improvement, they're no longer getting paid. A settlement can make a difference in how their future starts. Some patients can't go back to work at their normal job if they've had a catastrophic event at work. And the doctors should fill out the paperwork in a timely manner so that they can move on, proceed with their lives, and get their claims closed. I tried to look it up to see if there was a timeline for doctors, because I was going to print it and send it to a couple. Because I think I'm waiting. I just got one yesterday that I had been waiting 3 months for. And I don't even know if the doctors realize that they're, most doctors go in to help patients as well. I don't think some of them realize the impact they have when they don't do that paperwork. I feel very honored just to make it this far. So, or to be nominated, as cliche as that sounds. I considered it a great honor. I was actually very shocked, and because there's a lot of great nurses out there.